Hello, welcome back to Soul Light Reflections. I am back recording this in Seattle. I got back a few days ago. The last episode that I recorded, I was kind of on the road on a create your own adventure situation after I got back from a healer's retreat, which was absolutely phenomenal. I will go into all of that in a little bit, but I want to start this episode with a download that came through that it really feels like someone out there really needs to hear right now, which is the fact that there is no wrong decision. Every single decision that you are able to make right now in your life, whatever your crossroads you're at right now is, there's no wrong decision. As long as you are living with intention, as long as you are listening to the calls on your heart, nothing is going to lead you too far astray from your soul's purpose and your soul's path in this lifetime. That feels really, really important to remind you of right off the bat in this episode. And it's something that I have learned time and time again in my own journey. And while I have plenty of things in my life that I don't necessarily regret, I don't think I truly have any regrets. However, I do think that there are some periods of time in my life that I look back at and go, oh my gosh, I wish I learned that lesson sooner. And I needed the amount of time that I had in those situations in order to learn that lesson and integrate it even more deeply than I would have been able to otherwise. So I still stand by that statement that there is no such thing as a wrong decision as long as you are leading with intention. Obviously, morally, there are wrong decisions, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about when you're at a crossroads and you have a couple of decisions in life and you're not 100% sure which way to go. You're trying to figure out what's your intuition and what is the rational decision, and maybe they look like two completely different things. Maybe you choose to follow the rational decision and eventually you realize, oh, wait, no, I want to go the other way. It's also okay. It's okay to try out different things. I like this metaphor of trying on different outfits or trying on different hats. You're allowed to pick and choose what you want as your reality in your life right now. It doesn't have to look like what they want it to look like. It doesn't have to look like what you wanted it to look like last month, last year, 5 years ago even. Every single day you wake up and you make decisions for how your reality is going to look. You might wake up and decide that your reality that day looks like walking your dog and going to your job and coming home and making dinner. Or you might look like that is the day that you're going to decide that you're going to take a nice long walk with your dog as you ponder quitting your job, and you end up putting in your 2 weeks notice that day. And then you go on with the rest of your day and you go to work and you come home and you celebrate that. And you wake up the next day and you know that you're that much closer to being done at a job that's maybe a dead end job, or maybe something that you never enjoyed. This could look like a lot of different realities, but I just want to remind you how important it is to constantly be living with that intention and know that you are always having choices. You are not actually stuck in anything in this life, literally anything. I like this mantra, nothing is permanent. No feeling is permanent. No person is permanent. No experience is permanent. Everything is going to ebb and flow. And that brings me into the next thing that I wanted to share on this episode, which is this breakthrough aha moment I had during my therapy session today. I was talking to my therapist about how I'm just trying to do anything that I can to continue to ride this high that I'm on right now after coming home from this retreat and from my week where I got to have my own experience and go on my own adventure. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I was talking to my therapist today about wanting to keep the momentum up and ride this high that I've been experiencing, this high of creativity and flow and trust that I am experiencing post-retreat after having 4 days at a retreat for healers and then a full week just kind of off on my own, doing what felt aligned and trusting my inner compass and talking to my spirit guides and just really flowing with everything that was handed to me. And I was saying how I really am wanting to harness that and maintain that, and I'm trying to come up with ways to do so. And she said something that really made me reflect a lot more. She said, hey, I'm noticing that there's maybe a little bit of like worry or fear behind what you're reflecting to me. Like it kind of sounds like you're convinced that this feeling, this creativity, this fire can't actually last forever, that you can't keep this up, that it's not sustainable. And she said, but you're sitting here and you're creating these ideas and you're taking action on the things on your heart. And she's like, you've kind of always done that. Like, I need you to understand that this isn't something that has to go away. Like, yeah, it might look different. It might ebb and flow, but you're not ever going to actually lose that because this is just kind of who you are. Like, you literally do embody fearless change and dancing to the beat of your own drum and being bold and making big life decisions with so much grace. And as she was saying that, I, first of all, was so grateful to have a therapist who's reflecting these things to me and kind of getting that external validation, which is so important sometimes. And I realized in that moment that the reason that I do definitely have this worry in the back of my mind always of like, oh, well, this isn't going to last forever. I better savor it now. It all comes down back to that scarcity mindset that comes up in many aspects in my life. But the reason that it comes up in this aspect of living in this high vibration right now, coming back from this retreat and having this high level of creativity, the fear is that it will come crashing down because that's what was modeled to me my entire life through my dad. No shade at him because we're all just doing our best, right, as humans on this planet. But I observed him my entire life with manic depression. And so he would have these really high highs of just being like high on life and ready to do all the things and have all these plans. And then the next day or maybe the next week or whenever it would happen, he would have these really, really low lows of this really dark depression where nothing that was done was right, and he was lashing out and having these really big anger spells, and it was like the world came completely crashing down. So it was like these really tall like tidal waves that you would picture in like, I don't know, North Shore Hawaii, and then it would come crashing down and you're just like pummeled under this wave. And that's what I was shown my entire life. And so I have this realization today that is so deeply ingrained in me that it can't always be so high. And it has to come crashing down at some point. And my therapist helped me to realize, no, it doesn't have to come crashing down. Like, yes, there will be ebbs and flows, but it's not like those massive Hawaii waves. It's like some waves that you might find, I don't know, other shores, like in a lake, for instance, where the tide goes out, the tide goes in, but it's not necessarily these like crazy waves. And I feel very grateful to have had this breakthrough because now I feel more well equipped to make sure that I do create sustainability around this creativity and this flow that I'm experiencing right now, and make sure that I am fully nourishing my soul and my mind and my body to be able to maintain this. And that way I can continue to nourish and support and empower you, and nourish and support and empower my one-on-one clients, and nourish and support and empower the people that come to my retreats. It's so fucking exciting that this is what I get to do. This is why I'm on this earth. This is what I'm called to do. Whew. So it just feels really good to say all of this out loud, because maybe you're having an aha moment like that as well. Maybe you fully relate 100%. The point in saying all of this is that I had been conditioned for literally my entire life to be convinced that high vibrations will always come to an end eventually. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like, there's a difference between being on a high vibration and manic depressive episodes, right? And so my therapist recommended like giving a hug to that high vibration her, that high vibration me, that high vibration you. Give a hug to her and say, hey, thank you for being here. Expressing gratitude and reminding her that there doesn't need to be this like apprehension or this like walking on eggshells, wondering when things are going to come crashing down, because they don't have to. And it's interesting that I'm reflecting this because this is actually the same exact type of experience that I have had to work through in relationships. I have been so convinced through my relationship with my ex-husband of 11 years with an abusive narcissistic ex of 6 months prior to meeting Max I was convinced that like things always come crashing down, that there's always lies, that there's no such thing as a healthy relationship, that it's always guys trying to hide things, that I'm never going to get the full package in a man. And yet here I am living to tell the tale. I have this incredible fucking life partner. And I've had to learn and relearn over and over what it means to both be an incredible partner and have an incredible partner. And that it doesn't always have to come crashing down. That when we have, an argument or we bicker, it's okay. That's normal. It's okay. And we're going to get through it literally minutes later. That it's not going to turn into an all-nighter, an all-day thing. And there's just so many more things I could say about that. But it's interesting that I have done a lot of work to unlearn and relearn that aspect when it comes to relationship. But when it comes to life, and specifically for me, career, and like my soul's purpose on this planet, for some reason that has felt different up until this point. And now I'm realizing it's not actually any different. It's the same lack or scarcity mindset that all good things come to an end, when like, no, they don't have to. Another thing my therapist reminded me of today was you have it in you all the time. And this is something that I had been reflecting on a lot during the retreat that I went on. And I didn't actually tell her about that. And she reflected this to me, which was really beautiful and aligned. She said, hey, there's nothing that's there for you to lose. Like, you're not going to lose anything because it's literally in you all the time. And she's like, you say all the time that you want to maintain this, that you want to make sure that you don't forget. And she's like, you won't forget. You won't forget these gifts that are within you because they are literally always there. And she's like, you have to remind yourself, I will never be less. I actually get to be more and more of this full expression of myself. I can't possibly be any less than I am now. However, I can continue to strive for more and be better and more powerful and more beautiful and more expressive and more bold and all of these radiant things that make us a unique individual on this planet. And I was just mind blown by that. Like, how fucking cool that we get to continue to be more, but we're never going to be less than we are right now. Think about it. When it comes to the experiences you've had, when it comes to the knowledge that you've gained, when it comes to the skills that you've acquired, you're never going to be able to be less because it's already there. You've already gained it. So I wanted to quickly share something from the retreat that I went on, because the facilitator, and I'll go way more into like what actually happened at the retreat on another episode, but I want to like touch on little pieces during this episode. There was a visualization that the facilitator took us through, and it was about like meeting your higher self and or your spirit guides and getting a message from them, asking them, hey, do you have a message for me? And walked us through this beautiful visualization. And then once we, came out of it, opened our eyes, we journaled about it. And I just opened my journal and it says, you have it all within. And I literally still get chills. I have chills all over my arms right now. Straight up goosebumps. Like my hairs are sticking up on edge. You have it all within. And I have it in quotation marks. And that is so aligned with what my therapist said to me today, which is you have it in you all the time. So under that, I wrote, it's about practicing what you share, recognizing your light, honoring and trusting your light. And that really speaks to this interesting underlying fear that I've observed within myself, that one day I'm just going to wake up and forget that I have all of these gifts. One day I'm going to wake up and realize like, what the fuck am I even doing? One day I'm going to wake up and be like, I'm not a healer. What am I talking about? But it's like, no, again, I get to be more and more. I'm never going to be less. And this is something that genuinely has been intuitively within me since I was a child. I have had so much of this light within me for so long. It's just that the first half or more of my life, it was very stifled and I was not allowed to explore it. And now I'm like stepping more and more into that. And I'm excited for what's to come. I'm excited for the next month, the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, because again, we get to be more and more and explore more of what that means. And then the interesting part that never ceases to amaze me, the facilitator had all of these oracle cards out. If you're curious, it was one of Rebecca Campbell's decks, and she is just amazing. I'm currently reading a book by her called Light is the New Black. Everyone pulled a card, and we like anointed ourselves with essential oils, and then we, intuitively pulled one card from the deck. The card that I pulled was called Water Codes, and it was all about ancient wisdom, and it said the intelligence is within you. And I just was like, come on, like what better confirmation could I have received from, I wrote down from my guides, you have it all within. And then after I wrote all of that stuff, I went and pulled a card and it said, intelligence is within you. Like, thank you, spirit guides. I appreciate it so much. And then the essential oils she had out, I think she had like an orange one, maybe like a lavender one. I chose the frankincense and myrrh, which is, I've always been really called to frankincense and never really known why. Even as a child, like they used to use frankincense in like the Catholic Church here and there. And I always like really loved it. And she was talking about how frankincense and myrrh are really good for taking broken pieces of yourself and making them whole again. And I found that really interesting because it was almost like I am like putting back the pieces of myself that somehow have gotten lost along the way, which I feel that many of us are in that journey right now. So if that's you too, I want to hear from you. I would love for you to reach out and let's talk more about this. It's a really powerful part of my journey, and it's like nice to have those little reminders that like, yes, you are on the right path. Yes, you are doing the right things, right? Because sometimes our human brain gets a little scrambled, right? It gets a little like, oh, I don't know. Are you sure? Like, are we going the right way, mom? And we are, I promise you. Again, going back to how I started this episode, there is no wrong way. Everything that you do is the right way. One last little tidbit that I want to share with you is my little journey after the retreat. So during the retreat, it was Monday through Thursday, 11:11 to 11:14. It was absolutely beautiful. Obviously, it started on that like magic portal day on 11:11, and then it ended on that Thursday. And I had a rental car booked from that Monday all the way through the following Thursday. And I didn't know what my plan was. I left it completely open-ended on purpose because I don't really ever get these opportunities to just travel around and see where it's going to take me. I was like, oh, maybe I'll stay around Joshua Tree, stay with a friend for a night or two after the retreat. Maybe I will head up to LA and see friends for a little bit because I used to live there and I miss those people. Maybe I'll just head straight over to Phoenix to hang out with my friends there. What I knew was that I had to return the rental car on the following Monday. Like I knew that that was when the car was due back in Phoenix area. And other than that, my itinerary was completely open. And so from like Thursday to Monday, I was like, the world is my oyster. And I just I had done so much work. We all had done so much work during the retreat, connecting with our spirit guides a lot deeper and igniting that inner goddess like so much. And it was a group of healers, so it was even more powerful being in that type of space as a healer. And I got some really good integration time after I dropped a couple girls back off at the Palm Springs airport. I was feeling really called to head back to Joshua Tree National Park, which is the area where the retreat was held. And didn't put on the GPS after I dropped the girls off at the airport. I just kind of like started driving. And I think subconsciously I went back the way I came from the highway, like to the airport. And so it took me to the highway and I was on I-10 East. And I just kind of was like, all right, like spirit, take me to where I need to go now. And so I'm like on the highway and I just kept feeling like I needed to get back to Joshua Tree National Park. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to drive and like just totally trust it. Well, I got to a certain point on the highway that I'm like, I don't recognize this anymore. And I'm pretty sure the exit that we took to get to that area before was like way back there. And I'm like not turning around now. And I'm like, well, whatever. I'm on I-10 East. I know I'm at least headed in the right direction towards Arizona. If I get to Arizona tonight, whatever it is, what it is. So I kept driving. And then maybe like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes later, I see an exit that says Joshua Tree. And I'm like, no fucking way. I thought that I was like way past it. And I'm like, all right, screw it. Let's get off at this exit, see what happens. And it was like to the right, it said Mecca. And then to the left, it said Joshua Tree. And for some reason, I'm like, no, I need to turn right. So I go and I turn right and I'm headed down this tiny road. There's like a couple of bikers that pass me, like bicyclists and like a car. So I drive down the road and eventually I stop and I'm like, all right, I don't know why I'm here, but like it's basically like a big open field, but like in the desert. And so I pull off to the side and I just get out of the car and I just start like walking really slowly and just like embracing the fact that like, wait a second, I am officially on my own fucking adventure. This is crazy. Like I had just dropped the girls off at the airport. This is my first stop of like, okay, here we are. And I just really took it in. I was out there for probably like an hour, just kind of wandering, and I found this ocotillo tree and started meditating next to it. It was absolutely beautiful. If you don't know what that is, you should look it up because I think they're powerful and beautiful. It's like this tall, thorny, like tree kind of. It's like kind of like a cross between a cactus and a tree. I don't know, like, I don't know foliage like that, but yeah, it was interesting. And I just felt so called to it. And so I sat at the base of it and I meditated and reflected for a while. And something that had been ingrained in us during the retreat, our facilitator was very good about reminding us that we're constantly asking our higher self, our spirit guides, for a lot of guidance. And we also need to ask them, what can I do for you? How can I honor you? And so I practiced that. While I was meditating, I said to my spirit guide, how can I honor you? And I heard pick up trash. And I was like, what? Like, I don't really see any trash around here. Like, this is not a frequented area for sure. So I'm like, okay, like, got it. I locked it in. As I'm walking back to the car, I see like a can here, a bottle there, like a piece of a bike tire or something in another spot. I'm like, okay, guess that's what is meant. Like, and I walked back a totally different way than like when I walked away from the car too. And so it's not even like it was like subconsciously in my mind, like, oh, there's trash over there. Like I walked back a different way and I'm like, okay, I guess there is trash. So I picked the stuff up. I like put it in a bag in the car and I get back in the car and I go back down the road and I'm like, okay, I guess like we're going to cross back over the highway and go the other way off that exit and go into Joshua Tree. Like I'm still feeling really called to go back into the park. So I, again, am fully trusting my inner compass and I'm literally out loud talking to my spirit guides, like just guide me to where I need to be, show me what I need to see, let me hear what I need to hear. And I just was like, I'm all yours. Like I have no agenda here. That was so fucking powerful. I highly recommend if you ever have the opportunity, even if it's for like a couple hours going on a walk or like something or just driving, do it. It's wild what can come about when you do so. That is like true surrender. And it's like practicing for little bits at a time, which is really cool. So anyway, I am driving down this road. I get into Joshua Tree National Park and I'm just driving. It's like the Joshua Tree National Park, by the way, is massive. Like it's so big. And the reason that I came up on this exit is apparently because there's like a northwest entrance and this was like the southeast entrance. So like I was very far away from where we went into Joshua Tree National Park, like during the retreat, but I was still in the park. And so I'm driving for, I don't know, maybe like half an hour. And all of a sudden, like everything is pretty brown, right? Because it's the desert and there's like big boulders and stuff. And all of a sudden I see a bunch of like white on the side of the hill. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I'm so confused. What's white? And so I keep driving. I'm like, oh, that was interesting. And then I'm like, no. Like, listen to your inner compass. Like, I need to turn around. So I turn around and now I'm on the backside of these hills. So I'm like, I don't actually know where that spot was, but I kind of wing it and guess. And I like pull off to the side and I just start walking into like the desert. Like there's no trail or anything. I just start walking and I come up and around this one massive like boulder area and found the most perfect seat to meditate. Like it literally felt like a throne. It was like flat bottom, flat back. And then there was like a footrest even, like where my feet dangled off. It was perfect. So I sat there for a while and I meditated. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to continue on. So I get off this rock and I'm like walking. And I walk towards where I thought the white face of this hill was. And along the way, I find the most beautiful, untouched pieces of like quartz. It was like bright white, like not even dirty or anything. It was wild. And so I would pick up these pieces. I had like 3 to 5 pieces in my hand. And I just keep walking. I'm thinking in my head, okay, this is a national park. I'm not going to keep these pieces. I'm going to like create an altar. I'm going to find a flat rock somewhere. I'm going to basically create an altar and honor, like, thank you, spirit guides, for guiding me to this place. And so I'm like holding these in my hand. I'm walking towards where I feel like the area is and like really enjoying my time, just like taking my time. I am walking towards this area and finally I start seeing more and more of these white like pieces of quartz. And I'm like, oh my God, this must be like where I was seeing. It didn't look quite as white like up close, but I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're far away and there's a lot of white pieces, it kind of looks like the whole area is white. So I'm like, this must be where it is. And I turn around and there's literally this boulder on the ground with a perfectly flat edge to it where there were already like 5 pieces of quartz, like beautiful pieces, untouched pieces on there. And I'm like, no fucking way. Like intuition, spirit literally led me straight to an altar that's already built. Like what? So I set down my pieces that I had gathered there and I'm just like mind blown. I'm like, I literally got led directly to this spot. This is wild. So I spent some time with this boulder. I still get chills telling this story. I spent some time with this boulder and I'm like hugging it and dancing with it and dancing on it and just like meditating. And it literally felt like I spent 2 hours there, which like it could have been close. And eventually I'm like, okay. And I was going back and forth all morning and all early afternoon about like, do I need to stay the night in Joshua Tree? Like, am I feeling like I need that much more time here? I don't really know where I'm going. Like, I don't have any accommodations booked right now. Like, I was that open-ended. And after this experience, I was like, no, like I got what I needed. This is what I came here for. I'm like, okay, guess I'm good. I get chills as I say that. So obviously it really was all I needed. And I start heading back to the car. I'm like, okay. I head back to the car. I'm like literally walking in the middle of the road because I'm like, this is amazing. There's no one around. That was such a powerful experience. I'm so grateful. I'm like talking to my spirit guides the whole time. And I get back in the car and I'm like, okay, back to the highway we go. And I head back and I get back on I-10 East and I'm just like going. And then from that point, that was, I feel like, the craziest part of just like, wow, thank you, Spirit, for guiding me to exactly where I needed to be. But then I get back on the highway and I'm like about 3.5 hours outside of Phoenix. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like head there. Like, I don't really know where I'm going. Let me just kind of head there. I'm like, the sun's gonna start going down. Like, I don't really feel like I need to stay in Joshua Tree because I would need to like sleep in my rental car, which was not a big car or anything. And so I start heading back. Make a couple stops along the way. There's like other synchronicities that happen that like aren't super crazy. I'm not going to like share them here. If you want to hear them, I'm happy to share them if you want to reach out. But they weren't anything crazy, but they were definitely like reminders that I'm on the perfect path. And so I start heading towards Phoenix. I get to like right outside of Phoenix, like the very, very west side of Phoenix area in Surprise, Arizona. And it's like, I don't know, maybe 8 o'clock or something like that, maybe 7:30. And I'm like, it's dark out. I know I need to eat something. I am still like fully integrating from the retreat because I'll talk about the retreat itself on another episode. I don't want to make this episode too long talking about all of that because we're focused on like the soul guidance part of just trusting and going on an adventure in this episode. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I know I need to eat. So I literally pull into like a Village Inn parking lot, which is like a diner. And I'm just like, I can't go in there. I literally cannot. I can't right now with a restaurant. And so I end up going to a grocery store and just grabbing like a couple of things that I could eat that would tide me over until the next day that like weren't super perishable, that like I knew I was gonna get an Airbnb for the following 2 days. I didn't really know what my plan was for that night. So I'm like, let me at least get things that like I can take to a fridge tomorrow, but it's gonna be okay in the car overnight. So I got like literally this like granola-y cereal with some oat milk. And then if you know what bitchin' sauce is, oh my God, that stuff is amazing. The Chipotle bitchin' sauce and then some chips. And I'm like, okay, none of this is like super perishable. It'll be fine. And I had like an apple and some watermelon. And that sounds so like girl dinner. Oh my God. Wow. I don't think I've said that out loud yet. So I had that as literally my dinner. And I'm like kind of browsing hotels and Airbnbs, but it's getting to the point in the night where Airbnbs are like, you can't really check in past a certain point. And then the hotels are like so expensive for like being outside of Phoenix, like quite a bit outside Phoenix. And I'm just like, oh, I just don't want to pay this much money and deal with people like checking in to the hotel and being like underwhelmed by the room. And I'm just like, you know what? I got to get out of here. Like, I need to be back in nature. So I literally am in the car and I'm just like, fuck it. So I drive just north on the highway. I drive like 40 minutes north and I'm like, okay, let me just look quickly for a trailhead. And I find one that's like outside of the city by, again, like 40 minutes. And I end up parking at the trailhead overnight and just sleeping in the rental car. And luckily, when I was packing for this whole trip, something in me told me, bring a pillow and bring a blanket. Like I packed a big suitcase literally only because I had those with me. And I'm so happy I did because I was able to sleep in this rental car by choice because I wanted to wake up surrounded by nature. I was so ready for that. So I wake up, I brush my teeth, and I go straight to the trailhead and I'm like, yes, I needed this. This is exactly what I needed. I had my headphones on, I had my journal with me and my water, and I spent a couple hours out on this like pretty flat trail, but there was no one on that trail, not a soul around, not a soul in the parking lot. It was incredible. And a lot of, again, really synchronistic, beautiful things happened while I was on the trail and I just fully embraced it. And I took a couple photos and videos like on the way out. And then on the way back, I was feeling really called to like put my phone away completely. Like don't take out your phone until you head back. And it was so cool because I kind of was on this trail that had a lot of different routes that you could go. And although it felt really flat, especially compared to like Washington trails, at a certain point, I was like, okay, I should probably start turning around because I need to check into this Airbnb at 11. I couldn't see the car. I couldn't see the parking lot anymore. And I'm like I'm pretty sure I'm going the right way, but like I couldn't really see anything but like cacti around and like those really tall saguaro cactuses. Anyway, so I start heading back. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm heading the right direction, but I literally can't see the car anymore or like the trailhead area. But I'm like, whatever, it'll be fine. I'm just trusting. I get to the point where I'm like, okay, it's taking a little longer than I thought. And I'm like, put your phone away. Stop looking at the time. Time literally does not matter. You told this person you're going to check into the Airbnb like at sometime around 11 and like you do have time. You're going to be fine. So I just trusted. I put my phone away and I just started embracing every single step. I started walking to the beat of this music that I was listening to. I started just simply looking around and not looking for signs and not looking for anything specific, just embracing it all. And it was so beautiful to be able to do so and know like, I don't actually have any time restraints. It's just this conditioned response to be so worried about, oh, when do I have to be where? What do I have to do next, right? But actually, there was nothing. There was actually no obligations there. So eventually I get back to the car and then I head to this Airbnb and that place ended up being incredible. Like such a beautiful Airbnb. Ended up being right next to multiple trailheads. I ended up doing this one trail 2 times. And yeah, that was kind of the end of that like super flowy side of just trusting and going with the flow. But even during those 2 days that I spent at this Airbnb, I was very much on my own journey and in my own energy the entire time. I didn't really have a lot of like contact with the outside world or friends or anything. I was like just creating and recording podcast episodes and journaling and pulling cards and reading and having like little nights to myself with like pizza and a movie. And it was a really, really powerful integration time. And so I guess even those 2 days were very like go with the flow and just trusting the process and doing whatever felt intuitively right. And then by Sunday, I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go see my friends. So I went to a different area of Phoenix and I stayed with my friend for 4 nights and that was amazing. And I had a great time there as well. And that was a little bit less flowy because we had a couple of things that we wanted to do, a couple of hikes. We went to Sedona, like we had dinner, but all in all, the point of all of this is how powerful it is to just trust, to just give yourself an opportunity to be able to simply trust and like fully surrender. And I'm in a period of life right now where surrender is the name of the game. Surrender and trust is just like, I have no choice. I have to. And it feels really exciting that I got to kick off this kind of section, if you will, chapter of my life with that trip and with those experiences. I'm just like over the moon. And that's why I wanted to record this episode to share with you just how powerful and beautiful it is to be in that essence, to be in that energy, and to give yourself little opportunities. If you're not able to take a week and a half, flowy trip like I did, which believe me, I never have taken a trip like that. That was my first time in 31 years of doing something like that. So I get it. And you still have opportunities every single day to find little ways of igniting that within yourself. Like I said, even if it's like an hour at a time, even if it's 20 minutes, you are on your lunch break and you're taking a little walk, like let your intuition guide the way for where you need to walk. Chances are you're going to run into someone that you've been meaning to text, or you're going to, find a beautiful flower on the side of the road, or you're going to get to pet an amazing dog. I don't know. I'm just like throwing things out there, but there's going to be something that you're going to go, oh my God, I wouldn't have gotten that experience if I didn't go that way. So anyway, that's all I've got for you today. I promise that I will share more about the retreat experience with you on a future episode. I guess I should start announcing now that I am also hosting a women's embodiment healing retreat that is happening on January 23rd to the 27th in Phoenix area. While I was there, I was just feeling so excited to host something there to get people out of the cold weather and into the Arizona sunshine for a few days. So it's going to be a 5-day retreat, and we are going like off the wall, igniting your inner goddess fuck yes energy. I'm talking like shit that you've never seen done on a retreat before. We're going there. So if you want more information about that, please email me or message me on Instagram, or go to my website and fill out a contact card, whatever way you want to do it. But like, let's talk. I literally emailed people who are interested in the retreat today, and spots are already filling up. So make sure, if this is aligned for you, or you feel like there's a friend that's aligned that really needs this fiery fuck yes goddess energy in the new year to keep that going, make sure you reach out to me or share with a friend. I'll be releasing more details in the coming weeks, but just make sure that you jump on this quickly because those spots are going to fill so fast. Anyway, until next time, keep shining, keep aligning, and I'll talk to you soon.